I was the third least wealthy members of Congress.
How do you go from $0 to $1 million?
Do not underestimate what $100 a month can do if you put that away at an early age and let that keep working and accruing interest for you, and do not touch it.
Hustle is what's required to be successful in the private sector.
It's how you can help solve problems. It's how you can help lead men and women to go do something they otherwise would not do. We need more veterans to go answer the call to put our country back on the right track.
For too long, those that have worn the cloth of the country, that have fought and sacrificed for our nation, have been left out of the greatest financial engine the world has ever seen. My service paved the way for my success, and that's true for so many veterpreneurs. In fact, some of the greatest companies were created by veterans. I'm your host, Kaj Larsen, and in each episode, we'll bring you the stories and the wisdom of those who have gone from boots on the ground to successful careers, from military to wealth, and how they've done it, so you can apply those insights to your own mission and life. Welcome to Tactical Wealth, from military to money. All right, before we get tactical, if you had to sum up your journey from military to money in one sentence, what would it be?
All-American entrepreneur fighting for change.
All right, and what's one moment from your military service that changed your worldview?
I think it was the invasion of Iraq when I was there. It was like 138 degrees in Baghdad, and my driver, he basically said to me, like, "Hey, sir, like, what the hell are we doing here?" And listen, I served in the company heroes, guys like you did, and to me, it should have been, the focus on bin Laden, where he was in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and not necessarily Iraq. And so, I was independent, but that changed my worldview and saying, hey, the folks in the Pentagon don't know more than us in the 82nd Airborne Division, don't know more than us that, I was a professor at West Point. I was like, wow, yeah, I'm a captain and I understand the rank structure, but the reality of it is there's too many bureaucrats that, go along to get along.
Yeah, it's almost the taxi driver principle. Sometimes like a taxi driver in some godforsaken part of the world knows a lot more about politics than
totally, right.
the head of,
right.
the Secretary of State.
Right.
Yeah. Today's guest is a true force on the battlefield, in the boardroom, and beyond. Patrick J. Murphy was the first Iraq veteran elected to Congress, where he helped lead the fight to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He's also a venture capitalist. First, he was Undersecretary of the Army and then acting Secretary of the Army. He's an Emmy award-winning producer. And now Patrick is the host of Warrior Money on Yahoo Finance, a show that I have had the privilege of being on. Patrick, tell us a little about your background. What inspired you to join the Army originally?
One, I'm a blue-collar kid that I grew up in a row house in Northeast Philadelphia. And so part of that row house mentality was, we shared a step with somebody, like, take care of the people on your left and your right. And, my dad was enlisted in the Navy and then served 22 years as a Philly cop. My mother was actually a Catholic nun. So when you look at, like, the call for public service to help others, my family really ingrained in me. I do joke, though, my mother was a Catholic nun that dumped Jesus for Jack Murphy, right? So she doesn't like it when I frame it that way, but, she did leave the comment and then met my father, but, it's not as good of a story that way. But listen, I was the youngest of three. My brother and I both joined the military, third generation veterans. He deployed twice. I deployed twice after 9/11. And Kaj, like you, man, like I joined the Army before 9/11, right? And so I know on 9/11, you were buds. On 9/11, I was just joined the faculty at West Point. I was a young captain. I've been to Airborne School, Air Assault School. I was getting ready for Ranger School, after that year. And long story short, like you, I deployed right away. Did 2 light infantry units, first with the 25th Infantry Division. I served under General Petraeus and then Colonel Mark Milley at the time. And then was part of the invasion force in Iraq with the 82nd Airborne Division. And, that changed my life. The military, for me to go from community college age 17 and within a decade to be a professor at West Point, like that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the Army. If it didn't instill the confidence, when I'm competing against guys and gals from Harvard and Notre Dame, et cetera, and ROTC and doing better than them and getting that confidence, like, man, I'm not just some like college hockey player that does ROTC. I'm like I could be really good at this. This could be my calling, my profession.
When I'm thinking about Airborne School, one of the coolest things that ever when you're connecting generations of veterans, and I know you think about this stuff a lot, is, I did the Normandy swim on the 75th anniversary of Normandy. We recreated the mission of the original Naval Combat Demolition Units. We swim over the beach, 11 miles. We land on either Omaha or Utah Beach. And the first person that I see, and we're coming up on the Normandy anniversary, which is good. The first person that I meet on the beach is this 95-year-old American paratrooper. And like me and you, this guy had done 5 jumps at Fort Benning, Georgia, to earn his lead sleds, to earn his, first parachute wings. His 6th jump at 17 years old was a combat equipment jump into Normandy.
Wow.
On the beach. And then he had not been back until that day, and he was 95. And when I think about these guys, that generation of veterans, you and I have spoken about this before, they came back and they transitioned well, and they built some of the best, one of the best economies the world has ever seen, right? That they truly were the greatest generation. You and I have been mission focused since we left the service on this next greatest generation. So what do you see as the sort of difference in the generation of veterans? How did those guys come back and build one of the strongest economic engines the world has ever seen? And what should our generation of veterans be doing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, they are the greatest generation. And I think part of it was the grit. I mean, whether they were in Europe or the Pacific, I mean, what they went through, the turn the tides of that war, the establish democracy across the lands, and the shutdown, obviously Hitler and the Nazis, it was incredible. And so I think that when they came back and had that grit, that confidence, that's why you saw a lot of them go into political public service. You see people like, President Kennedy, George Bush, and then the other generations, people like John McCain and Jack Reed, type thing. And then of course our generation. But half of those veterans in World War II start doing small business and then create these global iconic brands. I mean, people forget, the largest retailer in the world is Walmart, started by Sam Walton, World War II veteran. The largest media company in the world, Comcast, they own NBC, started by Ralph Roberts, Navy veteran, right? And so that, not everyone, was successful, but a lot of them went and created these iconic brands and then set the tone for the next generation. So the Marines, Fred Smith, who started FedEx after coming back from Vietnam, Ralph Lauren, and we forget about Enterprise Car Rental. That was started because the guy was stationed on the USS Enterprise, right? And so that's why I'm passionate about. I think, Kaj, you and I, we want to be problem solvers. We want to shed a light, tell stories. But I ran for Congress because we didn't have the post-Hyman GI Bill, and I co-authored that, right? We kicked out 13,000 troops because of who they loved. To me, I was I don't care who you love. Just can you fire an M4 rifle? Can you kick down the door? Can you do your job? That generation, when you look at our generation starting small business, it's less than 5%. So they were 10x on us on starting small businesses. So that's why I'm in venture capital. I've, have great partnerships where about 80% of our companies that we invest in are veteran-owned companies. We invest in individuals and extraordinary leadership, right? And people like, you and I have talked about people like Blake Hall, who was, went to Vanderbilt, ROTC, goes to Ranger Regiment, earned 2 Bronze Stars, 1 for Valor, gets out, goes to Harvard Business School, starts first troop swap, then pivots to troop ID. Now is ID Me. Right now they credential 147 million Americans credentials. They're with I think 14 federal agencies, 45 states. But again, it gives people confidence that if you say who you are, you are. I filed my taxes. I had to get my little PIN number from IRS. I had to use ID Me on my phone, right? And I am proud about Blake Hall. And, when you hear him tell the stories about being a lifelong learner, having grit, he was China 2011. He's just started the company, and someone calls him up from Lego and says, "Hey, I'll give you this shipment of basically Legos. You go resell it to make money, but you got to pick it up tonight." He is in New York City. He gets in it, takes a flight to Dallas, rents a U-Haul truck, and then drives it back across country just to sell it online to make his revenue goals that year, right? But that's what veterans do. We don't understand. We don't work 9 to 5. We just get the mission done.
And you find a way through. Like no matter what, you find a way through. And I do think for you, what do you think it was about your military service that helped sort of catalyze or helped grow? Like what are the most important things you picked up from the military that have translated into entrepreneurship?
Well, first, it taught me how to really talk to people, make sure, and to me, in the Army, you say KISS, like keep it simple, stupid, right? And I knew that my job as a soldier was I have to shoot, move, and communicate. I think a lot of folks, sometimes they'll be able to communicate across or down, but they struggle communicating up. And, we joked earlier in this, segment about the humble brag, right? Because we both, Emmy Award winners. But to me, it's like, listen, we earn that, right? And that's it. That shows that you're a world-class communicator, right? Like, period. And you do it in such a gracious way that I think it shows other people that it's okay to talk about yourself. It's okay to talk about your accomplishments, but framing it, like in the military where I learned, it's not about what you've done or what you're doing. It's how you could help solve problems. It's how you could help lead men and women to go do something they otherwise would not do, which is the fundamental principle of what leadership is.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to get caught up in the 5-meter target or the tactical, right? Like I think one of the problems for transitioning out of service, fair perspective is I always say, well, there's not a huge civilian market for underwater demolition, right?
Right.
There's not a lot of those jobs on monster.com, right? But there is an extraordinary demand for leadership, problem solving, a never give up attitude, and it's communicating that in your sort of next endeavor.
Yeah, and that's why people say to me like, hey, Patrick, why are you involved in politics anymore? Like you were a member of Congress, you were age 33, and why now focus in business? Because this is the new frontier for me, right? I'm learning, yes, I teach at Wharton Business School, and of our 850 students that we bring in every year on the full-time 2-year program, about 10% are veterans, right? And so like, I'm really proud about that. Like it's something that these are veterans. And again, we study in Huntsman Hall. John Huntsman was a World War II veteran, right? Maybe that and I tell them these stories. I tell them like, hey, Alex Skorsky is a West Point Wharton grad. He's an Army Ranger. He was just the CEO of Johnson & Johnson. They don't know these stories, right? And so now again, I don't teach a course called entrepreneurship, right? But I do, when I talk about pivots, I talk about Blake Hall. Now again, he's our age. So like to me, like it's important for these young folks to realize that like, listen, and even when they leave, I tell them, don't get caught up in being part of the middle class or upper middle class and be broke. And what that means is, you're going to leave here and the average pay is going to be about $200,000 and $250,000 a year. And that's a lot of money because the average American family it's about $60,000 they make a year. But when you get caught up in that lifestyle and then you buy fancy cars and buy a house that you're over leveraged in, like be smart, like leverage your money, leverage these opportunities, but don't get caught up in the game.
Looking back now in hindsight, is there a financial component to what you've done that you wish you had done earlier? Would you have done something different either in the service or post-service life?
Yeah, I think, listen, when I was in Congress, I was 33, married, just had my first kid before I was even sworn in. 535 members of Congress, I was the third least wealthy members of Congress. But I had to pay my way. I gave plasma to get make college tuition in law school. Like I had a 2-year scholarship after I joined the Army, ROTC, but then law school was my own dime because the Army cut me loose to go to law school. But it was on my own dime. But I literally would give plasma. I had 4 jobs. I was hustling. Because people do joke what was the toughest job? Was it 138 degrees in Baghdad when you get mortared every night? My toughest job ever was actually being a security guard for the Philadelphia Eagles, the old Veterans Stadium, being 120 pounds with acne and 60 years old, trying to tell people knock it off. The guidance was wear black pants, wear black shirt. We're going to give you the yellow security jacket. No radio, no real training. And I got my first battlefield promotion because I broke up a fight and the supervisors wore white jackets, right? So I saw a supervisor, some fans, they had him in a headlock. I came over and tackled the guy who had him in a headlock. The next game, I was promoted from the 700 level in the end zone seats to the field. And I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, Murph, you did a good job. It was okay. It was the greatest job. And basically they paid me to watch Philadelphia Eagles play football. It was the best job I ever had for a kid from Northeast Philadelphia was like the best job ever.
Eagles fans are insane. That's what I learned from going to the game. They're absolutely insane.
But they've really bent over backwards in like getting veterans. So like I know like Howie Roseman is the GM. Like he called me when I was in Penn, and I had just left, and a guy Ryan McCarthy, became that Secretary of the Army. Ryan McCarthy's my bunkmate at Fort Bragg in the '90s, right? And like he was a Rage Regiment guy, like he's my buddy, but he's like, hey, we want to draft like unsigned free agent. This guy Brett Toth out of West Point. Now, when I was helping lead the Army, we changed a policy that if you get drafted by the NBA or WNBA for women, like if you get drafted, you can then go serve and go in a reserve component. And I had to go to Chairman John McCain at the time and say, listen, Chairman, we want to change a policy that if you get drafted, you can go in the reserve component. I go, I know you're going to say to me, sir, well, David Robinson, but we don't have too many 7'2" guys and gals, coming to the academies. And I go, and sir, you got to remember, I have to bring in 120,000 Gen Zers a year into the Army. We're the largest force. The majority of our 1 million soldiers are actually in a reserve component already, National Guard reserves. And we need those West Point guys like Brett Toth, et cetera. So when Howie Roseman, texted me, he said, hey, Murph, can you help me out? We're trying to sign him, but, we got to get this done like in 48 hours, to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, Ryan, like can you help make this happen? I'm sure you're not even tracking it. And then, he did that, and, he's playing for the Eagles. And then every weekend he was like, teaching at Temple University ROTC, like teaching military science classes, doing PT. Like those are the stories we got to do a better job telling that we don't actually in the military, we don't do a good job telling those stories, frankly.
Yeah. And if there is one thing that's like a legacy of all military service, I don't care like what branch of service you were. I don't care if you're like an E1 or an O10, like military culture is grind culture. Right. Especially Big Green Machine, right? Yeah. Like you grind it out in some form or some capacity. And I personally believe that hustle is what's required to be successful in the private sector as well, right?
No doubt. Yeah.
You'd concur with that.
Absolutely. And then I'll give you another example, like Villanueva, right? Again, tight end / wide receiver at West Point. Eagles sign him after he serves in Ranger Regiment, goes to combat. Sign him. They're like, listen, you're either going to be like an offensive lineman or you're going to be like, you got to put some weight on. My man put on like 65 pounds, muscle and weight, and then became like an all-pro tackle. Right now, he didn't become an all. The Eagles signed him and took him in, but he eventually did it frankly, for the Steelers. And then, but Villanueva, Elijah Riley, Christensen, who's on the Kansas City Chiefs. I already mentioned Brett Toth, but like there's these great young, Americans that do great stuff. But whether it's even, and I think that I call it the warrior class of America, the folks that shower after work, not before work, because, it's not just NFL players, and it's not just veterans, but it's first responders that are like, hey, we will grind this out to succeed because we believe in the mission.
This is exactly what we're trying to do on this show, right? Show these incredible people who exemplify this transition from military to money, right? They take the nature of their service and then they translate it into success in the private sector. You're a quintessential example of this. All of the hustle, all the grind you just talked about, right? Now you're on the capital allocation side, right? You're doing all of these things, still giving back, which I appreciate, and we have that shared commonality between us. But there is this like massive like knowledge gap, information asymmetry, and just wealth gap and experience gap from when you were working it at Veterans Stadium, right, to where you are now. So this is tactical wealth. So let's get tactical for a second. You're an E5, you did 5 years, or maybe you did one re-enlistment, one re-up, right? You got your TSP, your thrift savings plan. So you got a small, teeny little nest egg, civilian equivalent of a 401k. But, you've been making, probably the equivalent of $50,000 or $60,000 a year. You're 27 years old or you're 26 years old. You have military service under your belt, but that's a long way from being a captain of industry. So tactical wealth right now, you get out of service after your basic service requirement. How do you go from, let's say $0 to $1 million in the bank? What would you do now in today's day and age?
Yeah, well, first plan your work your plan. So use your leverage. So, you were part of less than 1% of the nation served during these defining moments. Leverage the GI Bill to go get schooling. Leverage, frankly, the VA home loan. And you could do it multiple times now. So we changed the rules. So go invest. And by the way, if you don't feel comfortable investing in your home by yourself, right? Get business partners to do it and put it under your name. Like, right? Like go and do those things and like leverage those opportunities to help make money work for you. If you're just working all the time, for your time, and that's how you're earning money, you're never going to be able to really leapfrog, right? And so, and by the way, that's okay. The basics are, don't go into debt, pay your bills, but it would be use some of that money to invest in yourself, but more importantly, compound interest is literally the eighth wonder in the world. Do not underestimate what $100 a month can do if you put that away at an early age and let that keep working and accruing interest for you, and do not touch it, right? But part of that is just using the discipline that you learned in the military and apply it fiscally. Do not, I had a great captain who was an Army officer, who is Joe Donnell. He still works for Army RTC. He told, our Catholic college where I went and played hockey, he's like, gentlemen, there was all guys at the time, he's like, gentlemen, do not go buy a new car. Yes, you're going to make $27,000 a year as a second lieutenant. You think it's a lot of money. Do not go buy, if you got to get a car, go get a used car. Do not, it's the worst you can do. And I don't buy new cars now. I am frugal. I want my money to work for me. So what did I do? I just bought a 2-year-old, $50,000 car, but I bought it for $30,000 because I bought it 2 years later because it's not new anymore, right? But that's the way to make your money work for you. And I don't have enough of an ego to say, I got to get the best new car out there. To me, it's I got a great new car. It's new to me. I'm good to go because I'm making another 20 grand work for me now.
If Patrick Murphy gets out of the Army as an 03 right now in 2025, and you're reading the economic tea leaves, what sector do you pick?
Well, one, it's something that you must be relatively passionate about, right? So I think finance is usually the way to go, right? It's hard, but the easy thing is to do the consultant route, right? I would even say as an 03, get out and go get your MBA at a top 20 because, I'm a big believer in your network is your net worth as long as you're working it, right? And when you have a better network and you work it, you will get, especially if you have a $100 million mentality, this is what I'm going to build. I'm going to build this career. And you work it. I've read books, and I think that's been one of the reasons why I've been able to succeed. I read books on Bill Clinton about first in his class, on George Bush, on Tom Ridge. I read Algebra of Wealth by Scott Galloway. Recently, to me, it's I'm always trying to pick up things and learn because iron sharpens iron, right? I don't know everything, right? But I am, Adam Grant's my colleague, another professor at West Point, and Angela Duckworth. I read their books. It is goodness, right? And I don't just read, I take notes, and then I go back to those notes and, all right, am I implementing this in my life? I do it once a quarter, and it's my own little self-assessment, and sometimes I have to readjust and recalibrate my own life.
Yeah, it's like an AAR for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, after action report for yourself. I love it. All right, so this next section, it's you and I, one team, one fight. We're going through the door. We're door kicking together. We're in the fatal funnel. So this is just rapid fire and responding to real time. All right. Best investment you ever made?
My kids.
Amazing. Dumbest financial mistake you've ever made?
Buying a house in the water when I wasn't ready to buy the house in the water. It worked out fine, but there was too much of a struggle bus when I was in Congress at the same time.
Yeah. A civilian habit you had to unlearn the hard way?
It's okay to be late.
Yeah.
It still drives me crazy.
Yeah.
When people are late, or it drives me even more crazy when I'm late because I try to be respectful.
Military habit that you'll never lose?
I work out every day. Got it. It's a life force, man. It helps you. It helps your brain health. By the way, now again, I don't spend 2 hours in gym. I would love to, right? But I get in, get out, do what I got to do. But I did the Travis Manion thing. I never did 7 rounds of 29. Basically, it's you run 2 miles and do 201 squats. I did that because Travis Manion was a Bucks County kid. Obviously Naval Academy graduate, Marine kid, ultimate sacrifice. I do the Murph every May. And I do these challenges for myself because I'm I'm 51, but I act 27, right? But I take creatine every day. I do because I want the cheat codes. I want to figure out I want to be jacked. I want a 6-pack. I got a 4-pack now, but to me, it's I want my kids to be I want my son to be yeah, my dad's a badass, and I'm a quiet professional. I don't brag about it. We joke around, but I'm not letting him beat me 1-on-1 in basketball. He's on the basketball team in his high school Philadelphia Catholic League, great basketball league. We play one-on-one. I don't let him win. If he beats me, it's because he earned it. But I'm like doing everything I can to beat him.
My number one secret life hack is like work out every day, keep the knife sharp, like dominate in the gym, and then it'll help you dominate in life.
And Kaj, that's what I think America's gotten away from. 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. And the problem is it's we're all paying the price because that's why insurance rates are so high. That's why. And so America at her best is the Athens and Sparta of the world. And yes, I'm a big believer. I teach at Penn, at Wharton. Like I love, academia. I'm only part-time in it, right? Because I'm in business, I can't do it. But I love that part, but I do worry about it. And that's why I tell my students, and my kids, get to the gym. Like, it's important for your brain health that you have that physical fitness. And it does demonstrate that you have the discipline to take care of your body and that you're going to take care of people's problems if they hire you to do a job.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not underscore that more. All right, I'd like to finish on this. You're an investor, you're a capital allocator, you're a professor, and so you see a lot when it comes to entrepreneurship. If there's a veteran, whether a new veteran or transitioning out of active duty, who wants to start a business, what are 2 to 3 key takeaways for them?
Number one, what problem are you solving? It can't just be your idea and what you want to do. Are people going to buy it? Are you going to solve their problems? Because people will buy to solve their pains. Now, part of their pains might be increased sales, et cetera, but that's number one. Number two, do you have the passion to go do that? It is not glamorous. It is not like I was writing an email this morning at 3:30 in the morning, right? Because I woke up, and if I'm up, I'm up. Might as well. I was reading, and I had a big day today on obviously this podcast, but then other stuff. And I'm like, I had to get my stuff done before I showed up here at 8 a.m. Like, I was like, hey, because I don't have time late this morning or already I had to knock it out before my day started. And then I would say third, and use your network, make the ask. I said earlier, your network is your net worth. But if you're not closing, if you're not making that ask, you're wrong. Like ABC, always be closing. Like, if you're not asking people, like when I ran for Congress, I called ex-girlfriends. I called my then ex-wife's ex-boyfriends for money. Like I had no shame that because they weren't giving me money. They were giving the campaign money. If you believe and share my values, support this campaign. And we won. We were outspent by $3 million. We won by 0.6%. And then, by the way, when we won, we didn't just say, hey, we won. We said, then did the GI Bill. That now 800,000 Americans are using the GI Bill. We did repeal the Nice Hotel. We did other stuff. And I'm trying to get more veterans in the funnel to be going to politics because, Kaj, you and I talked about it. It used to be in Congress, 4 out of every 5 members of Congress were veterans. Now it's less than 1 out of every 5. And to me, people are just so down on politics and political public service. And to be honest with you, they should be, right? But we need more veterans who are going to put the country first because they have done it, shown that leadership ability to be part of that 1% that served. And we now need them to go serve, whether Democrat, Republican, Independent. We need more veterans to go answer the call to put our country back on the right track. Well,
Amigo, you certainly led from the front on that one as being the first of our generation of warfighters in Congress. It's when I first became aware of you, and I couldn't be more proud to call you my friend. How do people follow what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think social media is the best. At Patrick Murphy, PA. You can subscribe to our Substack. We're about over 250,000 followers there. Subscribers there, it's free. And LinkedIn. If people are listening, they follow me, Patrick J. Murphy, on LinkedIn. If you follow me, as long as there's a picture on there, I'll usually accept it, unless it's sketchy and not in English, and I'm thinking like it could be a corporate spy. But as long as it looks legit, I'll connect.
Amazing. All right, well, Patrick, thank you so much for being here, for delivering a masterclass in what it means to be a servant leader, to lead from the front, to lead with inspiration and purpose. I couldn't be more grateful for both your friendship and for your knowledge. So thank you.
Well, keep crushing, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks again for locking in with us today. I hope this episode stimulated the old brain housing unit. Step one to becoming richer is becoming smarter. And I hope some of the lessons and ideas from today have sharpened your knife. As always, I hope you're taking notes, but more importantly, that you're taking action. Thanks again to Siebert.Valor and Siebert Financial for the support. And remember, stay tactical, stay driven, and don't forget to bang that subscribe button.